Welcome everybody to today's webinar, How Modern Teams Optimize Data Costs, going from cost center to profit center. I'll go through a couple of slides and then we'll go through intros and again get into the content here in a moment. Right, so looking at history, historical price of computer memory and storage. The price of memory and storage continues to drop. So in 1990, a terabyte would cost you $10 million. So if you had a time machine and you could go on Amazon and buy a terabyte of storage and go back to 1990, that would be a pretty good business model. Today it costs about $50 to get a terabyte of storage. If you notice the axis on the left is logarithmic, so it's going to continue to go down in that direction. The same for CPU, the same for lots of different things, right? At the same time, this is also happening with cloud providers. So, for example, AWS claims that they have reduced prices 107 times since it was launched in 2006. This was taken from Snowflake's webpage, 40% improvement in query duration over the last 26 months. And Snowflake, amongst other things, charges you for like how long a warehouse is turned on. And so in theory, if you're running the exact same workload, you have a 40% off discount. So do we really need to even do this webinar, guys? Like we can just say, hey, webinar over, right? Because everything's trending towards we don't need to worry about costs. I'll do my best Borat here. Not. Sorry to bring back Borat here, but that's not the case. And I'll tell you why. So what happens is something called Jevons paradox. If you decrease the friction of something or reduce the price of it, the demand for it can shoot up. So the picture on the right is actually where my parents live in Houston, Texas, on I-10, which runs like all the way across the country, all the way out to like LA. The widest part of that highway, which is the widest like freeway in the world, has 26 lanes. They keep adding, I think like a couple of years ago, it was 18 lanes. They like basically keep, widening it. But every time they widen it, you're creating more demand because people will, oh, I can live 45 miles away and still be able to make it to work on time. And then, traffic jams up again. So that's the same idea in data work. We keep on decreasing the price, increasing the performance, but the demand, started with reports and added dashboards and self-service and embedded analytics and AI, and we just continue to do that. So yeah, you can read a little bit more about Jevons paradox in on Wikipedia if you want. So cool. What we're going to talk about today is sort of like the shadow economy of data. Like you want to pay for trusted analytics used by your business that drives ROI, but you're also paying for unused queries and duplicative work and inefficient queries and time spent chasing issues. So what we're going to do today, you're going to meet the three of us, the panelists. Then we'll have a roundtable discussion where Ben and Collin are going to answer different dimensions of cost optimization, and we'll wrap up at the end. So a little bit of housekeeping. You probably found the chat function, as I can see from all the things happening. There is also a Q&A tab if you have questions. A DBT expert will be there to answer. And this recording will be sent out within 24 hours after the event. So if you miss anything, you can always watch it again. Right, as far as introductions go, so I'll go first. I'm Ernesto Ongaro. I'm a product marketing manager with DBT Labs. I've been in data since 2009 when I joined a BI company called Jaspersoft. I worked in technical support. I then worked at Looker, which later became Google. And just a quick side story about cost optimization. Looker had these things, or continues to have these things called blocks. They're like examples that you can like publish. I made one for sessionization of a specific type of data and like this. I forget the name of the system at the moment, but anyway, I published this, and within a couple weeks, somebody posted on the GitHub issue tracker, "Hey, I've been charged 20 grand for using this." So anyway, they actually got a refund from Google. Thank you. And I put in a lot of safeguards. So anyway, for the last 4 years, I've been at DVT Labs in Dublin as a solutions architect and now in product marketing. So we will go to Ben, Senior Director of Data and Analytics at BILT Rewards. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you, Ernesto. Hey, everybody. As Ernesto said, my name is Ben Kramer, Senior Director of Data Analytics here at BILT Rewards. For those of you not familiar, BILT Rewards is the platform where you can earn rewards on both rent and in your neighborhood. I've been at BILT now for a year. It's actually my first foray into DBT, though I've been working with data for my entire career. Prior to BILT, I was at Zip, leading the data and analytics team at the Buy Now Pay Later company. And prior to that, at APT, a MasterCard company, where we led A/B testing engagements for retail and banking clients. Excited to be here.
Thanks so much. Over to you, Collin.
Awesome. Thank you, Ernesto. My name's Collin Lenon. I am currently an analytics engineer at ClickUp. And I've been at ClickUp for about 4 years now, coming up on 4 years. So it's a little while. Prior to ClickUp, I was kind of in the consulting realm for a little while. And prior to that, I was at a company called Route, a package protection shipping company. So for those of you who don't know, ClickUp is basically a project management software app kind of turned into an everything app for work. So whether it be docs, tasks, whiteboard, those types of things, all kind of inside of one tool. So I've been here for a little while and have thoroughly enjoyed it and have been working closely with DBT since the day I started here at DBT and even on before that. So that's a little bit about me and it's nice to meet everyone. So glad to be here.
Thanks, Collin. Thanks for coming along. Right, let's get into the roundtable. So I have a set of questions, and you guys just jump in and we'll chat about each one. You kind of have like the theme here and the main question. So how did your team shift from being seen as a cost center to a driver of business value? What's changed?
Yeah, so at least for us at ClickUp, this has been something top of mind, especially seeing as the industry kind of ebbs and flows with the times of the market and the economy and those types of things. But I feel like when we kind of had a mindset shift and kind of started thinking of hey, let's be a little bit more proactive rather than kind of sitting back and waiting. I think that was kind of a big shift for us is when our mindset changed from, hey, let's go out and find value rather than kind of sitting back and waiting for quote unquote value to come to us, whether that be in the form of asks, whether that be in the form of questions people have, whatever it may be. So I think at a high level, at a general level, it was, hey, let's go out and create value rather than waiting for that to come to us. So I think that was kind of the big shift for us, at least at ClickUp.
Right, you're not
I
waiting
think
for. Yeah, go ahead, Ben.
no, go for it. I think in a really similar vein at BILT, we took that proactive approach and started using our data warehouse not just for reporting and analytics, but for really operational use cases. So now our data team is not just in the background, it's really at the forefront of the product itself, being displayed directly to end consumers, especially in our B2B product, and being really responsible for a lot of the AI and data science work that's being implemented into the product. So the switch from our side, from being that back of the house support function to, like Collin said, being really proactive and being part of the product, really shifted the narrative at BILT from data being seen as a call center to a real driver of value.
Brilliant. That I'm sure brought a lot of extra responsibilities, having your data be part of the product as well, higher SLAs and that sort of thing. But I suppose it raises the visibility of what y'all do to a critical function. That's brilliant.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the visibility comes, of course, with that responsibility, but also came with additional resources on our team. And I think the importance of DBT, we have like robust alerting set up, and are constantly tinkering and trying to optimize the analytics engineering side of our
Mm.
warehouse so that we can be an operational support for key parts of the app and
Yeah.
the business.
Did you also find that like quality improved, or at least because you are sending this to customers and customers are directly interacting it, I assume it's the same definitions that you use internally. Did you see any advance in that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think two areas. One is we certainly leaned in heavily internally to increase, reviews of code, uh, leveraging the DBT semantic layer for single definitions, documentation becoming a really important part there. Uh, but at the same time, I think one of the cool areas that this has driven us to be more successful is we are way more embedded within the business. The engineers understand the importance of the data that they create, uh, so that it can be displayed to the customer directly. It's not a secondary task like analytics and reporting can be, where it's not necessarily important for the engineers to create that data or store that data, for the data analytics team to use. But rather, now it becomes a necessity because it's expected to go directly to a customer. It's expected to be shown to a business partner.
Yep. Um, Colin, anything from your end as far as like when you guys drove this shift towards being closer to the business and bringing this mindset shift in? Were there any like new things that you guys took on that like brought that extra visibility that you can think of?
Yeah, I think it's obviously with becoming more valuable, people want to use you more, and so what comes with that is, as each of you have talked about, is the responsibility, and something that really I feel like really helped us with this is aligning with the business on the certain metrics, the certain, I guess, pain points, and kind of standardizing those within not only the data team, but also those downstream functions that we support. And so I think it really takes being close to them and then being able to translate kind of what they're saying and what they need and their pain points back to your warehouse and your DB project, wherever your engineers sit, and being able to, I guess, standardize those things and get them in one place. And so I think it's hard to kind of get that quote unquote source of truth for every single thing that you're working with. But I think as close as you can get to that is a step in the right direction. So that's kind of how I felt on our side.
Brilliant. Right. Um, let's shift to like measuring ROI. I think this is an age-old question for data teams, but how do you measure ROI when it comes to the work that your team does, especially platform related work? Both of you guys have like a platform team that then serves the business. And I ask this because when we're talking about like being cost effective, the formula is really like the ROI includes the cost. I mean, if we spend 100, but we're like, effectively getting 200 out of it, the ROI is positive and it's worth doing. So yeah, either one of y'all can jump in.
Yeah, Ernesto, you said it well. I think this is the age-old question for data teams, especially as a support function or a platform function. Uh, it's sometimes very difficult to justify the value that a Tableau or Sigma dashboard has, uh, or adding an additional DBT test or documenting. Where I think BILT, and what we just talked about before is that the operational requirements of the warehouse gives us a lot of backing from the business and allows us to not necessarily have to quantify every additional thing we do because this is the direction of the business, this direction of the product. We're not called into question every quarter when people look at the BigQuery bill, right? Because they know that that BigQuery bill is servicing the product directly. It's servicing the AI models directly. It's not just a BI tool. I think that really allows us to drive value without having to then necessarily quantify each individual project that we're doing. The other thing I'd add is BILT works in a really embedded, our data team is really embedded into the product teams. So while we do have our platform work for stabilization, as we talked about, the importance of testing and documentation still remains firm. Our analysts are directly on the same team as the engineers, the product managers, the product marketers, et cetera, that are driving the business forward. So it's not data and the business, it is just one business.
Right. Love that. And Collin, you mentioned that before that you had like an intake process around ROI. How does that work for you guys?
Yeah, we experimented with a few things, a few different things, and something that has proved to be successful and has really helped our data team to show its value is tying um, the requests that we get, tying the things that we work on just in general, whether we sought that out and create that value or it came to us, either way, is being able to tie that back to ARR and say, hey, if we're looking forward and we're estimating what this is going to do for us, how do we feel like it's going to impact our top line and what is it going to support
Mm,
that will help that, whether that be like an overarching OKR or like a quote unquote big rock that we're working towards as a business. And
mm,
so being able to tie the work that we do to those specific things has really helped to warrant the work that we do, kind of going down a different vein there. So I think that's really helped. Specifically at ClickUp, we sit under the growth org. And
mm,
so data itself sits under our just under growth in general. And so that's also really helped to see direct impacts to the business because you're directly helping to grow the business on a day-to-day basis. So I think that is maybe specific to ClickUp and that's helped us
mm.
specifically, but I think just generally being able to tie it to things that are producing ARR for the business has really helped us. So being able to kind of link those things and if they don't link and if they don't aren't related to things that are helping to grow the business, let's shift the priorities and focus on something
Right.
that will. So that's really helped us.
That's great. I've not heard of putting the data team under growth, but that makes ROI a much easier formula than putting it under finance, which is the typical thing that we see. Um, Really interesting, Colin. Um, cool. Okay, so this one is around we have the budget is set, but people come up with new ideas and all that kind of stuff. So how do you balance the pressure to maintain costs or cut costs with the need to innovate, especially as AI rolls out and I'm sure is something that's very prominent in both of your industries.
Yeah, for sure. Something that has been ClickUp just in general has been great at saying if you feel like there's value here, you can tie this to something, let's do it. So similar to kind of my last response, it's similar in that way. So let's tie it to something that can produce value and then kind of go from there. There's also this, I feel like extra expect not I wouldn't say expectation, but extra opportunity that has come with AI. And I'm sure a lot of companies are experiencing this and saying, how can we use this to help our business? So I think, especially with AI, there needs to be a little bit of room to kind of experiment and say, hey, I'm willing to take this bet and say this is going to provide value for us. This is going to help us as a business, help us grow,
Mm,
help us get to this OKR just a little bit quicker. And so really it's one kind of having the visibility of what our costs are, keeping that in mind and saying, hey, I'm willing to take this strategic bet that this is going to pay off. And if it doesn't pay off, then it doesn't pay off, right? That's a bet that I took and just didn't work. So let's refine it a little bit and kind of go back to the drawing board. But I feel like there's got to be at least some area of willingness to kind of explore and say, hey, let's make a bet here. And so that's
yeah,
what ClickUp's been really good about letting the data team do here and
cool.
feed that into different growth initiatives and those types of things. So that's part of it. And then the other part of it is, hey, let's find a way to tie this back. So I know I've talked a little bit about that, but that's been really helpful.
Cool. And would you say primarily the experimentation that you're seeing is around like AI assisted tooling, like helping you do analytics engineering better, or on the other hand, like it's using Cortex from Snowflake or something to like use an LLM to, I don't know, look through product review data and pull out sentiment or whatever. Which one would you say is prominent in what you're seeing?
I would definitely all of the above. So when I say experiment, I really mean like experiment with different things, and kind of all of the opportunities out there. So whether that be analytics engineering work to build flows within the data platform team itself to make us more efficient, that's definitely part of it. I think more of a focus is using AI to facilitate workflows on top of the metrics that we build inside of dbt. So the standardized definitions that I mentioned before, and Ben has even talked about, and kind of building those things in hand with the business. We built those; those are already there. So let's use those to take it a step further. So we kind of build on top of what we already have in terms of data models and facilitate downstream workflows into our other systems, make those more efficient. Whether that be with growth marketing, email marketing, those types of things, has been a focus for us. So I think it's kind of all of the above, but more of a focus on the latter.
Really?
Yeah, I agree completely with Collin. I think BILT, like ClickUp, has really focused on innovation, especially in the early days of AI that we see ourselves in, trying to be at the forefront of AI. And that is for engineers and marketing team, but it's also for the data team. So one of the areas that data team has spent a decent amount of time on is building a natural language interface for our business users. How often do we see business users want to just ask a question to you and get a quick answer, and they ask you on Slack, and that requires you to go into the data warehouse, answer a question, etc. Maybe even build a dashboard for it. Ideally, a lot of those one-off questions can be answered independently and self-service. And we've built that with a direct connection between Claude and BigQuery. However, right, that's the innovation part, but of course that then leads to the budget pressure. Self-service is awesome until you look at your BigQuery bill or your Snowflake bill at the end of the week or the end of the quarter, and it's something that we now have to focus on with 200 BigQuery users versus 4 that we had before. Um, Everybody really pushing data forward is going to increase our costs, and we've managed that, especially with dbt. We've built dashboards and alerting for high queries, high usage of users, and we've also made a commitment internally to kill the highest costing test or model builds every week. On Fridays, we have a little cost cutting hour where we identify what's costing the most and how do we reduce that cost. So you always have to balance it. It's incredibly important, but I have appreciated, at least at BILT, that innovation takes the forefront. We really are at the cusp of building something great, and we need to spend to do that, especially in the data world, as we continually try to optimize performance. But cutting costs is still important, and we don't want to lose sight of that in our hyper growth mode.
Yep. Makes sense. Makes sense. And I love the focus on like, hey, let's optimize what we're running because yeah, like if every single week you launch a new experiment, by the end of the year, you've got 50 something experiments that are maybe some of them giving you ROI, some of them not. And so yeah, that practice of like continuously pruning and retiring things that aren't used anymore and that sort of thing. I can imagine that's a thing as well for you, Collin. Like growth teams are constantly, they have lots of ideas and they implement them, but it was like, hey, that was for a campaign we ran 2 quarters ago. Anything that y'all do to like make sure that things that are kind of temporal like get shut down, or how do y'all look at that?
Yeah, I think I'll be transparent. I'll be transparent and say that's something that we're actively working on and trying to be better at. And so we don't have like a perfect system down, but that's something that we have just recently become more aware of and are saying, hey, this is something that likely needs to happen. So whether that be with downstream teams and the workflows they're building on top of the data warehouse, or whether that be within the data platform team itself and the things that we've built that we may need to deprecate as they're just simply incurring costs that aren't providing value anymore. So definitely something we're aware of and know needs to happen, and we're actively working to try and figure out the best process for making that happen. So I
Right.
wouldn't say we have a perfect solution here currently, but definitely something we're looking at.
Yeah, right. I think nothing is perfect when it comes to like deprecating things that are used, because even if you see one person queried something, the ROI that they could get from that could be incredible. So, but yeah, hopefully some of the cost monitoring and management features in DBT Cloud are going to help you all in that journey. Cool. Moving on to like culture. So what role has the data team played in creating a culture of cost consciousness? So Ben, you mentioned about the Fridays, efficiency Fridays. What other things have you all seen?
Yeah, at Build, at least the data team has really led a lot of the cost cutting initiatives. When product and engineering are trying to move fast and trying to build and grow at the directive of our quarterly goals or even daily goals as a business, the data team acts with the finance team, with kind of the core platform team, um, as a pullback, right, to understand costs, to review contracts, make sure that we are uh, you know, working as most efficiently as possible. So, for example, the data team led an initiative in our eventing tools, trying to reduce our overhead there, and to internally within our BigQuery warehouse, our GCP, right? Um, think through where we can see the highest costs and reduce them. That was entirely a data team initiative, and it's been really helpful as we then go out to our business partners, whether that be our platform team or our engineering teams, are kind of like growth oriented teams,
Mm,
uh, and look to reduce their costs as they continue to grow. Definitely becomes a pretty behind the scenes
sure.
workflow, but a really important one.
Something that's helped us as well is as we're working with the different stakeholders and as we're working with people outside of the data team, asking the questions of where does this go? What is the goal? What overarching OKRs does this help, or where did the value go from here? I think asking those questions has definitely helped to foster that environment of hey, what is this doing, or where can we cut costs? Where can we increase value? Those types of things. So I think that helps as we ask more of those questions. That's something that's more in the back of the minds of those who utilize the data team on a day to day. So I think that has kind of fostered that mentality a little bit, and I'll be honest, it's definitely the cost consciousness, at least for us, has definitely ebbed and flowed with the last couple of years in the industry itself and where it's been. And so prior to COVID, it was, hey, let's ship things quick, let's get things going as fast as possible. 80% is good enough. We're just looking to grow. And then COVID hit, and you're like, okay, let's scale back. We're thinking about costs a lot more. And then as we've kind of started to teeter out of that area a little bit and things have gotten slightly better over the last little bit, we've kind of found a happy medium of hey, let's be sure to keep the values of that cost conscious mindset, but also let's give some room to kind of experiment like I had just mentioned a few minutes ago. So it's definitely looking for that happy medium right now, and I think just simply speaking about it has helped people to be a little bit more aware.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think it's like keeping you out of the crosshairs as well if you are consistent as well with your practices versus like big spikes and things like that that can cause attention and suddenly it's like this big ROI exercise is brought upon you. But if you have like yeah, I don't know if there's like a Six Sigma or like some sort of like, systematic way to prove that you're like doing your job correctly in that place. But interesting. Cool. So, um, any like hidden costs and workflows and how you might uncover and prevent them?
Um, for specifically, um, we've definitely seen that there are things like this and things that we've uncovered. And just over the last 6 months, there have been situations where like, hey, this is wasn't really expected. Why did this happen? Or why did these spikes happen over time? And so you kind of go back and do some investigation, some analysis of your different cost reporting breakdowns and those types of things. And I think for us specifically, whether it be tool sprawl, so bringing on new tools, trying to fill those tools with data and then use those to help downstream workflows that are being built, or whether that just be like old data models that are sitting there being built every day that just aren't used anymore, that can be somewhat compute intensive. I think those are definitely two areas, at least for us, that we've seen there be hidden costs that we didn't directly identify. But with historical reporting in terms of costs over time, you can kind of gradually see things going up, whether that be a spike over certain weeks or certain months, whatever that may be. And so I think having the visibility into the costs of wherever you're working is definitely pertinent in those situations, and something we've seen definitely hit us in ClickUp. So we've learned that lesson and tried to be better about that and implementing those cost observability tools. So it's that's definitely important for us.
Yep. I'm sure managing an online, a SaaS tool effectively that has lots of clicks and lots of telemetry. There's lots of possibilities for sprawl and surprises. So interesting there. How about you, Ben?
Yeah, we have the two-layer approach, not so dissimilar from what I've talked about thus far. We have internal dashboard that we're always looking at, reviewing at an hourly level what's costing, what user buckets are increasing, right? Is it because folks are really active in our BI tool? Is it because people are leveraging the AI? Is it because we're working hard, or is it the DBT project that's building? What is the reason for various changes in cost? And we get that down to a individual DBT model level or an individual query from a user, so that we can then understand and optimize from there. So I agree with Collin completely that the core here is visibility. Right? We want those hidden costs to no longer be hidden. As long as we can see them and we know about them, we're in a really good spot to then optimize. We also have built pretty standard DBT alerting for costs, so that we don't need to rely on the dashboard itself, but to make sure that no query is going to cost anybody more than 20 or 30 bucks. No user is blowing up the cost in a given hour. Those types of alerts that we take really seriously across our
Yeah.
DBT project, costs are included in that. And it becomes a really important mechanism for us to identify costs and then hopefully prevent them in the future with further optimization of a given model, of a given test. So for example, we recently saw that a relatively downstream test was costing us almost $2 every time it ran, and it ran every hour. We realized that we probably don't need that test. It was tested earlier in upstream models. We removed it, automatic savings of a few $1,000s every month. That is the type of proactive work that we try to do when our costs are now visible.
Cool. Let's see. This one's similar. So balancing access with control. I think in the prep leading to this, I know that you guys look after like all of the departments at your companies, but you don't currently like attribute costs back to say, okay, that was a product query, that was a product model. It's kind of coming out of the same bucket. Anything that y'all do around this area?
Yeah, we talked about it briefly earlier, which is as we expand self-service at BILT, especially with AI, natural language processing, the increase in access is off the charts. We saw that. I think the paradox you mentioned earlier, Ernesto, is exactly right. We had a year ago, we had a data team of 2 people. They were busy. Now we have a data team of 6 people. They're just as busy, if not more. Right? The continued increase in excitement around data because the supply is bigger, because we can do more. And now with 6 people, we can increase that supply dramatically with our Claude interface, that people are able to ask questions directly to Claude rather than to my Slack, right? And that access is amazing, but it's going to directly impact cost. So we always have to balance our greater access to data, both from an end user perspective and from an internal perspective, with our cost monitoring and manage that ROI.
Yeah, that makes sense. That like you said, the per query cost limits and things like that, so that folks don't go wild. Um, Anything to add there, Colin?
Yeah, I will say, totally agree with Ben, and that's kind of right along the same thing that I had. But this was definitely a little bit easier for us as we were a little bit smaller, um, because it was like we were still in the mindset and still in the mind frame of let's just move really quickly and get things out the door, right? Let's build products that help the business, and so that was really the whole mindset. And then when we started thinking about costs a lot more, this kind of shifted, and so I would say I kind of boil it down to two things. One, more and more of a consideration for us, especially being a global business and having global data is one, how sensitive is the data, and then two,
Mm.
how valuable is the use case that we're supporting here. And so I think both of those kind of go into determining level of access for specific things within the warehouse and just in general in terms of building workflows downstream. And so I would say those are the two main things that come to mind whenever we think about balancing access with control and those types of things. But I would say we lean on the side of let's let's give more access to let this person make this specific bet if it can get us to our OKR, and then we can move forward from there without having to um, I guess, bridge the gap or be lenient on the sensitive nature of certain data. So
Sure.
I would say that's kind of priority one is making sure that a sensitive data is sensitive and it's in the place that it needs to be to stay that way, especially a growing business who is global. So that's definitely important. And then I think we start talking about the value that comes from these use cases and how we want to lend out different pieces of the warehouse. So I think those are the two main things that come to mind whenever we think about balancing access and control.
I think both of you guys touched on testing and quality throughout, and I think there's this flywheel effect. If people trust the data, they're also going to want more of it in a way. So, like the last time that they asked, they could ask Claude, and Claude came back with an answer, and they could actually trust it because, maybe they verified it somewhere else that it worked. They're going to come back much quicker than that traditional, let me ask an analyst. That's going to take weeks, and that's going to come back. So there's another thing with the paradox, which is like this flywheel accelerating, and wanting more. So thanks for sharing those insights. And this is the last question. So kind of looking forward, anything that you guys find to be a particular challenge or anything that you're keeping your eye on in the next 12 months? I think holistically, you've both explained how you have lots of like checks and balances there and alerts and monitors and programs. Anything that's like still outstanding or want to do in the next 12 months?
BILT is really continuing to scale as a company. Revenues grow quarter over quarter, and that is definitely going to pose a big challenge for the data team, both in terms of being able to service the business and also making sure that innovation doesn't lead to higher costs. Specifically, I think where BILT will likely be focusing a lot, especially the data team in the next year or so, is a deeper product analytics, deeper understanding of how users are interacting with the tool and where we can focus. And that the telemetry that comes with that is expensive. And how do you understand the customer really well while still optimizing costs is increasingly important. And the other area that I think we'll continue to focus on, as we've talked about already, is AI. Not just internal use cases, but external use cases as well. And to do those external use cases, the data warehouse continues to become an important part of that. We are building abilities for potentially for consumers to interact directly with an LLM in the BILT ecosystem. So to do that, the data needs to be really organized and well formatted, and it also will increase costs. So we are continuing to monitor those, and as new projects come out, new AI ideas come through. With that innovation, we'll have to continue to monitor and rein in any excess costs.
Awesome.
Yeah, I won't say too much on this because it's very similar along the same veins of what Ben was talking about here. But for us to ClickUp, I think it's very similar. I know AI is a big push in the industry right now. It's like, how can we use that to be more effective, is it really helping us be more effective, or is it just kind of incurring those costs, you know? And so that's definitely something we're thinking about as a data team in general. How can we activate the business using AI in different ways based on the strong infrastructure that we've built, right? So let's utilize what we've already built and see what we can do to kind of take that downstream and go to market with that. And then kind of along the same vein, we're also building a lot of AI functionality into our tool at ClickUp to help just teams in general be more effective in what they're doing and working as a team closely and being able to do things just that much quicker. And so that's definitely a focus and a trend that we're keeping our eye on over the next 6 to 12 months and how we can do that more effectively. So very similar to what Ben was saying there. So I definitely echo the sentiments of the BILT team in that regard.
Amazing. Great. Well, bring it to DBT a little bit. Cloud cost management is a whole thing that we've been talking about, and I think we touched on all three of these. It's a practice that includes like all three of these things. So I'll just talk just quickly what we're doing in the product around it. Some monitoring. You are, I believe both of you are users already of our like lenses that we added around, okay, there's this many consumption queries, and we're actually doubling down on that. So keep an eye out on May 28th. I think you're both going to be early testers of our cloud cost management kind of monitoring tools that go deeper, actually show you the cost to build per environment, per model, and that's only the beginning, right? Once you know what you need to do, then you need to like fix existing issues. Like you said, Ben, there's a test that's being duplicated in two different places. Hey, let's kill one and just keep one. So DBT Cloud will start to surface some suggestions like that, because a lot of that can be programmatic. It can say, hey, you're testing this in multiple places. And then finally, avoidance, and a lot of this will come with our SDF integration, which should be also live very soon. Things like you don't need to build all these models all the time, or just things that'll just happen automatically as a cost of that, so, or as a effect of that. So those are the three areas that DBT helps with, particularly in DBT Cloud. You have a lot of tooling around it. Great. So with that, I want to say thank you to Collin and Ben. You guys are great. I really love the eye on innovation while keeping things under wraps. I will also say that Coalesce is coming again, if you can believe it. So it is live in Las Vegas, October 13th through 16th, and also an online experience as it has been. As y'all have done in the past, you can join us and you can speak at Coalesce. We're actually taking submissions until May 7th. So if you have an idea for a talk, please share. And yeah, a little bit more about the actual event there. So again, thank you guys for joining, and have a great day, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Thanks, Ernesto.